now getting some breaking news from the Supreme Court. Ananya, they're standing by. Ananya, we're learning that the new regulations that tweak will be kept in abeyance. Just tell us more. What has the Supreme Court observed?
Well, absolutely, it's a big order coming in from the topmost court of the country, where the Supreme Court has gone on to stay directives that have been given out by the UGC in 2026. The equity guidelines of the the University Grants Commission are put in abeyance by the topmost court of the country. Notices have been issued on these petitions, and various remarks coming in from the topmost court of the country clearly saying that this is a poorly worded, a vague a directive that has come in from the UGC. In fact, the topmost court of the country also goes on to say that there is, in fact, we should not go back to a regressive society. We are into 75 years of independence, and we should go for a casteless society. But these diktats are making us to go back to that regressive approach, and that is something that is very concerning, and that's exactly why the topmost court of the country has now gone on to stay these directives. The union has asked to redraft, and in fact the Supreme Court has issued notice on these particular petitions while putting, in fact, this whole legislation that has been brought in by the whole diktat that has been brought in by the UGC under abeyance.
Well, absolutely. Mr. Nigam, you heard the big development that's coming out of the Supreme Court. Ananya Bhatnagar, there, our colleague, is standing by from the Supreme Court. He's letting us know that the Supreme Court has, in fact, stayed these new guidelines by the University's Grants Commission. Your reaction, sir?
Well, I think it's the most appropriate thing to do at this stage, because as I said, it was poorly drafted, it was vague, and therefore open to misinterpretation by the people who would like to weaponize it. And therefore, they don't define equity, they don't define anything in this, and then make equity committees and things like that. And therefore, I think Supreme Court has rightly gone into it, stayed it, and maybe they might be set aside, being ultra-biased to the Constitution, not within the parameters of the Constitution. As the court also pointed out, they want casteless society. That is the aim of our Constitution also. But caste should never be weaponized. And this particular guidelines for weaponizing some people who could misuse it for the purposes of their gain within the campuses of higher education, because those are the times when the people realize about their rights. When they go to education institutions, they realize about the fundamental rights, legal rights. But certainly this was open to misuse, and Supreme Court is right to that extent.
All right, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, thank you so much for joining us. The Supreme Court there staying the UGC Promotion of Equity Regulations 2026, and particularly mentioning about how these provisions are prima facie vague and culpable for misuse. We also have now